Lesson 12.1, Samples in Studies. Our essential question is, how do you determine if a sample is biased? Our first two vocab words are population and sample. A population is all of the members of a group of interest. A population is usually very large. A sample is a subset of the population, or it's part of the population. So as you can see in the Venn diagram, the population is the whole group, and then the sample is one piece of that. So it's a smaller group that's part of the population. And the sample is typically the part of the group that you are studying, so that you can make some generalizations about the entire population. Populations are typically too large to survey, as far as surveying the entire group goes, so you usually select a sample and analyze those results instead. Okay, our first questions say, identify the sample and a population from which it was selected. So the principal wants to know if students like the school lunches. He surveyed the students in second hour required. So we need sample and population. Well, the sample would be the group that he asked. So he asked the students in second hour required. Now, it wasn't only those students who he was looking for the opinion on. He actually was looking for the opinion from everyone in the school, all of the students in the school. So the population would be all students. He just didn't feel like it would be timely to ask all of the students to participate. So he selected one group. The next one. Every 10th person leaving a grocery store was asked if they would participate in a community survey. So our sample this time is every 10th person leaving the grocery store. Because those are the ones that were asked. Our population, though, is the entire community. So they're looking for information from the entire community. And again, they're not going to survey the entire community because that would take a long time and be very difficult to do. So they just went to a grocery store and asked every 10th person that was leaving instead. The next one, a senator wants to know her approval rating among the constituents in her state. She sends questionnaires to the households of 1,000 registered voters. So her sample is 1,000 registered voters. And her population is her state. So all constituents in her state. So basically the sample, you need to ask yourself, who was it that participated in this survey? That would be the sample. And then you've got to ask yourself the bigger question, what would the entire group be that they were really looking for information on? That's your population. Our next question is, what are some different types of samples? There are 5 different types of samples that we're going to focus on. The first one is a simple random sample. That's when each member has an equal chance of being selected. So that's like drawing names out of a hat. Where everyone is entered in once. So everyone has a chance at being selected if it's a simple random sample. The next type is a systematic sample. That's when members are selected at specific intervals. Like there's a system there. Usually a number pattern, numerical pattern, like every 3rd person, or the person at the front of each row, something to do with a number. the first person on each page in the phone book. The third type is a self-selected sample. That's the easiest because members volunteer to be included. The fourth one is a convenient sample. Members that are readily available are selected. This is when you pick people that are most convenient to you if you're conducting a survey. So it might be the first 10 people that arrive somewhere because that's the easiest, and then you're done. And then the stratified sample is a type of random sample, but before doing your drawing or before making your selections, members are split into groups. Then they're randomly chosen. So you might split them into groups like boys and girls or different age groups, splitting them into groups first and then randomly selecting. Okay, let's try this out. The first 100 people at a store receive a free $50 gift card. So the first 100 people, that is convenient. It's the first 100 people and then you're done. The next one, a teacher randomly selects 2 boys and 2 girls to go on to an assembly. So that's going to be stratified because they're split into groups first. You see the word random, but it's not simple random because it says 2 boys and 2 girls. The next one, the radio station selects caller number 9 to win concert tickets. There's a number there, a number pattern, so that's going to be a system, systematic. The next one, everyone enters their name in a prize drawing. One name is drawn from a hat. That is simple random. And the last one, 25 members of the football team volunteer to pack boxes at the food shelf. So that is obviously self-selected because of the word volunteer. If you need to see more examples of these types of samples, please look in your book and see if there are some more examples that can help you out if you're having a tough time deciding between what type of sample you think it is. Okay, next we're going to talk about bias. What does bias mean? Bias is an error that results in a misrepresentation of a population. So for example, when a population is selected poorly, like they're not representative of the group, like for example, if you're trying to, if we go back to the lunch survey, if the principal's going to carry out a lunch survey and they want good results, they should really make sure that they're not asking all of the students that are in, say, 6th grade, because that might be a different group, opinion-wise about lunch compared to the 7th or 8th graders. You should also make sure that you're not asking all boys or asking all girls. So I think it's having a good representative population would be unbiased. If your population is not representative of the group, if it's selected poorly, that would mean it's biased. Another thing that can cause bias, when you are writing a survey, if a survey is worded so that it influences the results. So if the wording has say the opinion of the person giving the survey, if the opinion comes out in those questions, that would be biased. If they're worded in a way that you think you're supposed to answer a certain way, that would be biased. Okay, so now it says identify each sample as biased or unbiased and explain. The first 100 people at a dog park are asked their opinion about allowing dogs to be unleashed in county parks. Well, I am going to say that this is definitely biased, because if you go to a dog park and ask people about having dogs unleashed, I'm pretty sure they're all going to want their dogs unleashed. That's why they're at a dog park. So going to a dog park and asking the first 100 people this question isn't going to give you an idea of the entire population. If you went to a county park instead and asked all of the people that are at the county park, people with dogs and without dogs, that would be a better sample. The next one, a company randomly selects 5 video games from a shipment of 3,000 to make sure that they work correctly. This is unbiased because they are randomly selecting 5 video games out of 3,000 and they're checking to see if they work. That is definitely a good sample. They're randomly selected, there are 3,000 games, and they've all got a chance at being picked. The first one about the dog park, there are a lot of people in the community who don't have a chance at being selected to be in that group because they only picked people that were at the dog park. Okay, what are some types of studies? So we've had a lot of vocab words here. So some types of studies. The first one is a survey. This is familiar, I'm sure, to all of you. That's when data is collected from responses given by a sample of people. For example, using SurveyMonkey to get opinions. Or interviewing people. That would give you answers to your questions. Or a written survey, sending something in the mail or asking people to fill something out. The second kind of a survey is called an observational study. Or sorry, not the second kind of a survey, the second kind of a study. The second kind of a study is an observational study. To observe means to watch, So members of a sample are measured or observed without being affected by the study. So you don't tell people that you're observing them. You don't let them know what you're looking for. You just watch people and record results. That's an observational study. Experiment is the third type of study. An experiment is when the sample is divided into 2 groups and compared. There's an experimental group that undergoes a change, and there's a control group that does not. So for example, giving 2 different types of tests. If you typically give a test that is multiple choice, but then in one class period you decide to instead give them an essay test or an open response test, and then analyze the results between the 2. Experiments are used a lot with medicine, because that's kind of how researchers figure out if a medicine is effective. They'll study 2 groups of people, one that is using the medication and the other group that is not. And then they'll analyze if that medication is helping. So the key with the experiment is that there's 2 different groups. One is undergoing a change and one is not undergoing that change. So everything just stays the same for them so they can see what's happening. Okay, determine whether each situation describes a survey, an observational study, or an experiment, and explain. To determine the type of music their customers like, the owners of a store randomly choose 10 customers to interview. So this is a survey. They're interviewing people and they're asking them about what type of music they like. So that's a survey. The second one, a restaurant manager is trying to reduce the number of choices on their menu. For a month, she records the number of times that each item on the menu is ordered. So she's not telling anyone what she's doing. She's not telling her customers, hey, you better order that or I'm taking it off the menu. She's just observing. So this is an observational study. She's observing what's purchased, and then at the end of the month, she's going to figure out what to take off of her menu. And then the last one, a doctor studies the effects of a medication by giving it to 10 patients with the same illness. Another group of 10 patients with that same illness doesn't take it. So this is an experiment where they're trying to see if a certain medication is worthwhile, if it will help people with that illness or not, if it has any side effects or not. So they study 2 groups, one that's taking it and one that's not taking it, to see the effects. You should be able to write a summary now, and please remember to read through your textbook because there's a lot of information here, so if you did not understand any piece of it, look to your textbook for more examples.